Hi friends, I am back with part 2 about my Ladderback Jacquard technique. I wanted to share a reel that provided answers to questions that a lot of you asked, and I thought it would be helpful to just kind of assemble them in a reel and share with you some good tips that I have for Ladderback Jacquard. First common question was, how do you make sure that you keep track of your ladder stitch so that you don't accidentally knit it into the front of your piece? How do you know it's a ladder stitch and not just part of your garment? You will come to learn that. But the biggest thing is that following those 2 rules of always bringing your working yarn to the front of your project to separate it out from the ladder, and then purling that ladder stitch, and then moving your working yarn back just so that it's between the ladder and your garment or whatever it is that you're knitting. That will actually push back that ladder, and you'll start to find as you're going around your needles and you come back to that ladder stitch that it's kind of hanging out there to the back, and you kind of recognize it. It's a purl stitch. It's sitting there kind of funny. If you're going really fast and not paying attention, you might catch it, but then you'll soon realize that your color work is not lining up, and it's because you added in that ladder stitch to the front. It just takes practice and you'll get used to it. Next question was, show me the floats. What does it really look like? And so I'm going to share a few examples. First is, this is the best example in my Sleeping Beauty sweater that I initially showed, where I actually just looked ahead in the pattern and saw a spot in a consistent place where I could use a ladder for each of the additional colors. So I didn't have ladders going all over the place. And so I had a central ladder. And so here in this example, you will see, where's my finger? Yeah, there you go. You'll see the ladders going through, and they're all evenly spaced. And I used it whenever I change colors. I just use that as a central anchor point. Okay, going super tiny now. Another common question I had was, what do I do if I have really long floats? So if I even divide it in half with one ladder, it still makes 2 long floats. What do I do? You can just break it down into multiple floats. And my example here is my another Eleanor Mortensen design. This is her beautiful Renaissance sweater. And at the very bottom of that pattern, there are some really long floats. And what I did for this was I planned ahead and decided how much I wanted to space them and try to keep the spacing equivalent for all of my ladders. And you can see that I started with 2 ladders, 1, 2, and then as the floats got even longer, it got broken down into 4. And then it made it look nice and consistent on the front. Another question I got was, can I just use it for 1 row? Sure. Yeah. In fact, I have an example here. This is the Soldotna crop, and you might see hidden down in there, they sort of look like beehives right in the center there. That's right where I just had one section where those floats were just too long. I really didn't want snagging or for the stitches to look wonky. And so I just have 1 row of ladders. So I just did step 1 and step 3. The first time around, I made the ladder. And then the second time around, I ended the ladder. Okay. Final example to share a few last points. This is my Eclipse of Moth sweater. And this is one of those designs where around the yoke, you have a large repeat of a design. So there's this large, beautiful moth with a moon, and it varies as you go down the yoke, top down, on how long those floats are between those large motif repeats. And what I decided to do is to just have a consistent ladder going all the way down the yoke as an anchor point, so that anytime I come across a long float, it's taken care of. The ladder's there for it to join onto. I decided to do it for every single row, no matter what, between those repeats. And I'm pretty happy with the results. Another reason why I wanted to share this example is this is a worsted weight project. And it's to remind me to tell you that this ladder will add some thickness, and it can be more obvious with some yarn types versus others. Worsted weight colorwork sweater can already be kind of thick and heavy, but that's kind of the point. You want a nice chunky colorwork sweater. It can add some bulk. So be strategic with where you put your ladder back. You may want to use it sparingly. And in fact, in the earlier example of my Renaissance sweater, at the very top of the yoke, there are some very long repeats. And I decided not to do the ladder back there because I was concerned that adding that ladder would add bulk around the neck. And I wanted the neckline to be a bit more delicate. So I just used the ladder at the very bottom of the design where there's very, very long floats, and where if there was some added thickness to the sweater, you wouldn't really notice down there towards the bottom of the design. That's it for my common questions and my answers that are hopefully helpful to you all. Let me know if you have any more questions. I'm happy to talk about this technique or any other. Happy knitting, friends.